What's up, Power Couples? This is Carlos and Catherine Green of Power Couples Rock.
Hey, what's up, power couples?
We hope you all are doing well. We're excited about the episode that we're doing tonight and the series, which is on consistency and commitment.
Oh,
The episode tonight is what's the name of it?
oh,
How's your language?
how's your language?
Mhm.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman?
No, we're not talking about that, but
Okay.
give it up for Gary Chapman, who's done a tremendous job of allowing us to understand our spouse's love language and how we can better serve them. But we're really talking about tonight, truly, the words that you use and how they impact your relationship.
Oh, those words. What comes to mind when we're talking about those words is how do we use I, me, you,
Mm-hmm.
transforming them to us and we, more language that speaks more to our covenant relationship. And that's one of the things where we want to really press into, Carlos. And why do you think we want to press into this? What's our reason for our audience?
We do a lot of coaching and counseling of couples, and we're constantly in the environment where we are around a lot of couples. And we can tell when there's a challenging situation or an awkward situation that may rear its head because we listen intently to the language that the couples are using. And oftentimes, if it is a challenging situation, they are using that singular language: I, me, my, you, kind of pointing the finger or how do I say it?
Singling,
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 singling out
singling.
themselves and not using the more inclusive, collaborative words like we and us, so that we and us are attacking the problem, the issue that's going on. And we want to bring that to couples' attention, that it's extremely important in how we verbalize what's happening and what's going on, and that we're always on the same team. So being aware of that, and it takes me to the analogy of especially a basketball team,
Oh, yes.
right?
Sure.
It's not just the point guard, it's not just the shooting guard, it's not just the postman, it's the entire team working together to accomplish or achieve the task at hand, whether that be to win the game or score a basket, whatever it is. So I effective teams, especially basketball teams, don't point each other out and cause blame. It's like, how do we actually come together and work best as a team when we're trying to overcome a challenge, overcome an issue, or win at something?
Oh, yeah. I love the basketball team analogy. And as I'm thinking about the couples that we often come in contact with that we're coaching, I really want to point out when we use a lot, when they use a lot of I, it's basically, especially with challenges, it's basically pointing the finger. Now, there are times when we talk through challenging situations where we often tell couples to stay in your circle. You talk about what you are experiencing,
Right.
experiences, so that you can identify and that you're not pointing the finger. However, when there's an opportunity of the language to be changed to incorporate we, it's more in it. We teach you how to do it in more of a positive way, or we encourage that more in a positive way. But when we want you to take ownership, it's so important that you use that particular language. But when you're moving forward in your covenant relationship, it is more of a we and a us. How can we achieve that? How can we press through that issue? How can we celebrate one another? And that's really the focal point that we like to talk about when we are explaining, like, what is your language? How are you effectively using your language, shifting that?
And people are probably wondering, well, what did you all do? How did you all transition from the I, me, you to the we and us together? And if you don't mind, we can give a pretty pointed example, a couple of examples to where the language that was being used, even though we really didn't know that it was being used, it did hurt the other person's feelings that we had to do. One of the examples, and you can really expound upon this one, but when we first moved into the house and we were kind of getting things together, and you wanted things a certain way in the house, and me, I'm excited that we have a space that we can entertain, we can have people over. So I'm doing everything that I can to just show that we have a covenant home. People can come in, they can walk through, but you weren't really ready to have that level of engagement of people from the outside coming in. So I was working toward just trying to make sure that we could share this blessing with others. And every time I did something that I felt like that it was good for us, I felt like I was being attacked or corrected, or I could not do anything right because I felt like you were using the language. We don't need to be doing this. You do this. You don't invite anybody over here. I'm not ready to have anybody over here. And it just, that's the way it came across, amplified, even though you didn't mean that. That's the way it came across. So it just blew up one day to where I just like lost it. I couldn't handle that anymore. Because I felt like every time I did something, you were all, that's why I felt you were always stepping on my toes on anything that I did. And it just got really frustrating at that point. And we really did sit down to clarify what that looks like. So you can speak from your perspective on that.
Yes. And from my perspective, I am an organized person, and I like to have things put together before opening the doors. And we're particularly specifically talking about a home that we recently purchased. And this is a shout out to Gary Chapman, knowing love languages, but Carlos is a very extroverted. He's also, your love language is affirmation and words of affirmation. And so in the midst of that, there was no time for me to do words of affirmation. I was in this mode, and I was in this mode, like, let's get everything in the home and let's get everything set up before we start inviting everybody to come in. Because what, in my mind, this is me thinking, my perspective is that when people come over, it pauses you to stop. And in my mind, I had 6 things I was going to do tonight, and now I'm not going to be able to do it because then I'm going to be up late. So I'm looking at all of that, and his is just like, I want to share the blessing.
Yeah, it's no big deal. That. They know we just moved in. It's good.
I was like, I had a checklist. But in the end, it was because I had something in mind and he had something in mind, and we really didn't talk about anything once we moved in the house. I would say we just went into autopilot mode of just making sure we got things in the house, instead of pausing and say, now there's probably gonna be a lot of people that want to come over or whatever. How do you feel about that? And so that we can make sure that we are moving and I can be receptive to that. And
this is what I have to tell you all this. This is what happened. This is where it just got to the point where I was like, I just can't take this anymore. I had just had a couple come over, and I was touring them through the house.
Oh, yes.
And it was getting dark, and I'm turning on all the lights because we need to see the rooms. And so I'm going through, and all the lights are on. It's exciting. We got this energy going here in the house. And then they leave. And then Catherine comes home shortly thereafter. She's like, why you got all these lights on in here? You know, we just moved in here. Why did you? I was like, oh my God. I was like, people just left. It's dark. I just wanted to, we literally just finish showing the house.
Uh-huh.
That was it.
We did not just finish showing the house. Carlos just finished showing the house.
I did.
Is he super excited? I'm excited too. But
You
there's
really
just
are.
I was really excited.
Mhm.
It was such a blessing because as he said, we were going to be blessing couples. We were going to be able to invite people over and just really we consider this our covenant home. And except for we had different perspectives of what we wanted to get done. And in that, yes, I remember coming in for the third time. Let me just say, for the third time, like all the lights are on and out. Like, what
I
is
was
the
giving
lights? Oh,
tours.
he was giving
I was
tours.
giving tours of the
And
home.
I'm not saying everything has to be perfect in a home,
Mhm.
but I am a little bit OCD about things being put up, and sometimes I can't sleep. I like to get things done, and that really was some tension at that during that time. Really,
it may seem small or insignificant,
yes,
but it was really it challenged us in our language
yes,
and our communication skills, and just that little foothold that the devil was trying to get in with us, even though it was a major blessing. But we really did sit down and talk through expectations of how we were going to maneuver this new move and what that looks like. And we could see that start to rise up, that dissension, that anxiety, that tension starting to build with us that was not comfortable. But after the explosion that we had, just where everything came out, it was really good in how we handled that.
I do agree with that. I believe we paused in that moment, and I'm not giving anything to the enemy because I think a lot of things that what we go through or we experience, it is to help us grow closer together, because we really work well together, and so to have challenges that we talk about the tools and resources, and we talk about speaking the right language in the midst of all of that. It was never a like a pointing a finger. Let me just say, not let me say you. I'm trying to. He's like, I'm trying to invite other people in. It wasn't like, well, you come in here and you're doing this. It wasn't really, to me, it wasn't, but it was to a point to where my expectations was something and his was something else. To then we had to come to agreement, which I look at that. And we've talked about this as a way that God grows your relationship. And in the midst of all that tension, our language was still, the result of what we wanted to accomplish was like, how do we move forward together? Instead of like what you want to do and what I want to do, how do we move forward to make this happen so that he can get his thrill with touring people while we have two chairs
organized
while I'm over here trying to organize. Now they come and sit here while I'm organized. I'll put you to work. That you put these dishes up, all of that. But
it makes me realize too that we've been married 30 years and we still have to make sure that we're intentional about our language.
Yes.
We do have a good rhythm of what that language looks like, but when there are challenging circumstances or situations that come, that's when we have to be even more focused on how we communicate with one another to just ensure that we are attacking the issue or the behavior and not the person.
That's right.
And the person can feel attacked, even if you're not intending the person to feel attacked, but the way you say things or the way you position it could be extremely helpful to resolve those issues. And that was just one example there. There's been plenty, even for me, in how I may have said something to you, or my tone of voice is probably the biggest challenge for me, because I like for things to move pretty fast. I like response times to really happen, especially between us, because I know the journey that we're on, and I know we're trying to add value into people's lives. Catherine is a major processor, and giving her that time to process through ideas or initiatives that we're doing. At first, I didn't understand that. Why did it take so long? on the back end, it was the best thing because she was able to point out things that I had overlooked because I was moving so fast, or to raise the quality level of what we were doing because she was able to process through that. But before I could truly understand that, I would be pretty aggressive about what we needed to do, and my tone of voice would really make a difference. And it did not make her feel like that she was valued, or it degraded who she was, in not in a purposeful way, or I wasn't intending it there, but my tone of voice really spoke to that. And I had to apologize for just speaking that in that tone, because
Right.
that was not appropriate.
Oh yeah, in everyday language, we have to constantly make sure we check ourselves
Mhm.
to make sure that our language edifies each other. I know there's some scriptures that I wanted to share. I think there's one in Proverbs that yes, Proverbs 18:21.
Correct.
And this one is from the Message. Words kills, words give life. They either poison or fruit. And it says you choose. And that's what I love about that particular scripture is, our words can, kill somebody or they can give life. And in the midst of tension, we have to still remember what our language is. Those words, once you say them, it's very hard to take them back, and it can play over and over in that person's mind because that they feel like you said that from the heart. And that's why we're so big on what is your language? How are you speaking to your spouse? Are you degrading your spouse? Are you uplifting your spouse? Are you supporting your spouse? Also, are you speaking the right language with we and us? When you need to take a step back, like we did when we were so concerned with, I need to put things in order. And he's like, I want to show people the home. Then we said, whoa, wait a minute. This right here is giving us a little bit more attention than we need. What can we do to accomplish both things and to speak that language? So we agreed upon what I needed to do. And one of the things I loved about what Carlos, he's like, well, what can I help get done? Because I know so many people may want to come over, and being able to talk through that. These are the things that I would like to see get done. And then vice versa, I have to say, he likes to, and y'all do not get me wrong, I love when people come over. I'm just very, very OCD about a lot of things. And so I have to also be able to meet his need as far as it goes as the language is what I mean. I have to say, okay, what can I do? All right, Catherine, you can make sure you have that list of things and try to get as much as you get done, but don't stop people from wanting to stop by and sharing the blessing. Be able to be in the moment. And oftentimes it was hard for me to be in the moment and learning to be more in the moment. And I believe we meet those challenges head on. I think we do a really good job of that.
I love when you said death and life are in the power of the tongue and what we say, because it's interesting. Just an observation is that when we're on our jobs, or when we're in church, or when we're with our friends, we are very careful to say the appropriate things to make sure that it's not offensive, it's life-giving, or if there is a challenge, we are very aware of how we're going to communicate that message. But because we live with our spouses on a daily basis, we can become complacent, and we could take for granted the feelings of our spouse because they're there every day. So things could irritate us, not our spouse, but things or situations or issues could irritate us, and our spouse becomes the scapegoat for that. And how we speak, our tone of voice, the inflections that we use. And so are we speaking life? Not only just the words that we say, but how we say those words. Are we speaking life or death to each other.
Mhm.
And I love that at the end of that scripture, it says, those who love it will eat its fruit. And there are benefits to speaking life
Mhm.
into your spouse or
Mhm.
speaking life over your spouse, because there's another level of intimacy that comes with that.
Mm.
There's another level of knowing one another very well when it comes to speaking life. Also, it provides an example for other couples. Again, we always speak that your marriage is bigger than you. It serves as an example for Christ and the church, for God's
Mhm.
pursuit of Israel, and the example for your kids or your nieces and nephews and other friends who are in a marital relationship or desire to be in a marital relationship. They watch you. They
Yes.
really do watch you and how you respond to things, how you speak with your spouse or significant other. They are listening attentively, and they're seeing how you do that. So again, watching what you say and how you say it, your language is extremely important.
Yes, I'm glad you talked about like the benefits of that. And I see so many tangible benefits when you speak the right language. And I know oftentimes we encourage all couples to do that when we see it, but there's some benefits that I know we've experienced uh, when we speak that language, of like
Mm-hmm.
we did this together. We accomplished this. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
went through that together. And you can share those experiences, whether they highs or lows. And I think that's great. That it also builds that, as you said, intimacy, a connection when you go through the hard times, and if you go through the low moments and the high moments, is what I would say. And you still can use that same language of we and us, because you can't just blame one person. And I'd like to say another example, and the reason why I said like blaming one person, I remember there was a situation to where you wanted to invest in something, and I wasn't
Which
quite.
one?
Yeah, I'm not gonna call it out specifically, and I wasn't quite on board. Let me just say that. But we sat down and we talked about, okay, what would be so that I wouldn't be so against it, but also hearing his side. And we just came to an agreement, because I could have just said no, because I did not feel good about it. But I also know that there's some experiences that I have to be willing to push myself past so that we can grow in our relationship. And I believe that was a growing moment. And we agreed upon, how about if I just invest this amount, and then that would be, at least I'm not doing it at all, something that I want to do. And so rather than me just being stubborn in my perspective and saying no, we came to an agreement on that. And I thought that was something that worked out to our advantage. And that's what you have to do. Even if you're adamant about something, yes or no, coming together, not just doing it on your own just because that's what you feel like doing, but as talking it over with your spouse to see if you are in agreement. That's that we and us. And because when you make that decision by yourself, you know what happens? You say, you did that, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when whatever that opportunity was didn't go through, I did not say, I told you so. I just that was the investment, and we agreed to that, and we experienced that, and so let's keep it moving.
Well, I love that we had the conversation before
Mm-hmm.
we ventured into that initiative that I wanted to do, because the expectations were drawn and we both were in agreement
Mm-hmm.
to what that would be, that investment would be. And it alleviated or eliminated a lot of the tension or awkwardness if something didn't go right or if something happened. At least I knew what my cap was. We were both agreeing on it
Yes.
to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that truly helped in our language because we already understood what the parameters and criteria were.
Yes. So we want to encourage you to check your language whenever you are going through hard times or even in your high times. Try shifting those words from I and me and you did that to we. Where are we going? What did we do together? How can we grow together? And making sure that it elevates. And when you do that, you can learn from those particular experiences. Yes, take ownership when it's time, but then when you move forward, be in agreement with your spouse in order for you to get the benefits of having a healthy relationship.
Well, as we come to a close for this particular episode in our consistency and commitment series on what is your language, I would like to just leave us with this other scripture. We talked about Proverbs and death and life are in the power of the tongue. But this one here in Colossians 4 and 6, it says, let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. And I love this particular scripture here because it talks about how our conversation, our responses to people should always be seasoned with salt. And in this particular context right here, this is when Paul is talking about with the Colossians to say, if you're speaking with someone about Christ, be very careful on how you approach them regarding the relationship with Christ, because what you want is after you have that conversation, you don't want it to be divisive. You don't want it to be contentious, but you want people to walk away saying, oh, I would love to have additional conversations about Christ, about that relationship. So even if we looked at our own relationships now, if I'm having a conversation with Catherine and either I'm trying to influence her to do something that I feel like would benefit us, or we are having a challenging situation, I want to always season my conversation with salt so that she feels valued or feel interested in coming back to have more conversation about it, not in a manipulative way, but in a truth, transparent way, so that we can really get to resolving the issue or moving forward in whatever initiative that we want to do together.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. Love that. Seasoned with salt.
Seasoned with salt, not a lot of salt,
not a lot of it
with high blood pressure salt, not that, but seasoned to amazing taste with sauce.
Yes,
salt.
I love it. Commitment and consistency.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes. So go out there, Power Couples Rock on Facebook, Instagram, or go to our website at powercouplesrock.com, and you'll see a host of other information that will help you in your relationship. And thank you so much for just being a part of our community as well.
Yes. And while you are out there searching, guess what you got to do? Get powered up.